Can't believe I'm about to say this, but I'm gonna ride a roller coaster for the first time in over 8 years. Wow.
So let me explain. The last time I rode a roller coaster was a family trip to Disneyland, California in December 2015. Did all the roller coasters there, including Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain, Matterhorn bobsleds, Gadgets Go Coaster, Goofy Sky School, and most notably, California Screaming, which until recently was my number one. In the years since, I haven't been to any amusement parks with roller coasters, yet I have been able to do similar experiences thanks to skiing and mountain biking. I was also able to ride the flat rides at the Canberra Fair, as well as go on a school trip to Jamboree. But recently, we were able to make a trip up to the Gold Coast and spend one day at Warner Brothers Movie World. I chose that park because 1, we hadn't been there yet, and 2, it looked to have the better rides, especially DC Rivals Hypercoaster. So onto the actual day itself. After a brief swim at the beach, we drove up to the park and I was super hyped when I saw DC Rivals Hypercoaster. I only got even more hyped when I saw Green Lantern, then Batman Space Shot, then Superman Escape, and finally DC Rivals all started testing. The gates opened shortly after 10 and we got stuck because one person ahead of us was having a lot of troubles with their pass, so we had to jump to a different line. But we got through and went over to Superman, only to find it had broken down. I mean, should have expected it, it was an Intamin. So we moved over to Green Lantern, and that was a ride that broke my coaster drought. After a short wait and a bit of a struggle storing our bags, I was able to get on back row far right, and the ride turned out to be better than I expected. Before I even got to a 120.5 degree drop, I was already getting lateral G's on that flat turn. Then the drop itself was wild with that angle, and the pullout had some nice G's. I got some airtime and even wilder lateral G's on the pull-up, plus some more lateral G's on that following outer bank. Then there was amazing hang time on that dive loop, followed by some positives and some airtime leading into the next mid-course. A quick turn led into an even wilder hang time moment with that barrel roll drop, then turned around and didn't really get any airtime into the brakes. But when you hit that first friction brake after the magnets, it was a jarring stop. Overall, Green Lantern a really underrated ride. Next we moved on to DC Rivals, the big one, and we decided to wait in the single rider line as we thought that'd be shorter. And whilst it was shorter, it was much more frustrating. There was just like 5 or 6 trains where no one from the singles line went on. But we waited through it, and by pure chance, I got the front row for my first ride. That was such a good ride. Besides the person sitting next to being really good, you know what? How about I just show my reaction?
Okay, just the DC Rivals first time. Single rider line, just happened to get the front row. So cool. Mouth is absolutely dry. There it goes. Yeah, the airtime on all bunny hills, particularly I think that second S hill, it's really good. Drop, non-inverting loop, whip was laterally insane. The dive loop is so cool. Yeah, definitely a memorable ride.
But for me, the best part was the final bunny hills, just constantly getting launched up into the air. And whilst I was on the lift hill, I saw Superman test, so we all decided to head over there before the line got too big. The lockers area was really crowded and it was also a bit confusing because my sis has cochlear implants, so we would have to give that to an employee at the station. After a half-hour wait, we were unlucky enough to get assigned car free. It meant we would not be pulled over the top hat as fast. Still, the pre-launch section for the ride was really good, and we were able to get the waterfall effect, I'm pretty sure. Then the hydraulic launch from 0 to 100 k's an hour took us all by surprise. We then went pretty slow over the top hat and got great eject on all the other hills. A short ride, yet a really good one. So now that we had knocked out the big 3 roller coasters in the park, we decided it was time for lunch, so that we'd be in line while everyone else was eating. So we went to a bakery, got some sandwiches and sausage rolls, and I took the opportunity to look around and see what else was happening. There were sound stages on the side, some actors doing some live performances, there was an old Merry Melodies cartoon playing in the background, and overall it was just a really cool place to be. Something was always happening in there. So once we had all finished, we decided to move over to a Wild West area. Specifically, we wanted to do Doomsday Destroyer as it had a short line. We passed Scooby-Doo's Spooky Coaster, which you may know is closed, and got him a line. Wait was posted at how much of a video you've watched so far, but it probably took longer than that just to get a single cycle through. And it was mainly because there was only 2 people working at that ride. So side note, if you can get a summer job at an amusement park, do it. Anyways, the ride itself was really underwhelming. The swings didn't go past the 90-degree point, and we were braked on every drop, which just wasn't too much fun. So after that we decided to do Wild Water West, Park's locker room, and this was probably the worst wait of the day. It was somewhere around 35 to 40 minutes, and just pretty frustrating. But once we eventually got on, I did not expect the backwards drop section. It was great going through the town throughout the course, and the final drop got us pretty wet. But considering it was really hot that day, plus the humidity, we appreciated it. So that took up our plan for using lunchtime to get shorter wait times, but we still went to DC Rivals for a second ride. This time I asked to get row 10, and the drop pulled so much harder back there. After that we decided to go on a more gentle ride, so we did the final roller coaster in the park, Roadrunner roller coaster. Thought it was just gonna be the kiddie coaster credit in the park, but it was actually surprisingly intense. A lot of the turns gave pretty good lateral G's, but it was not most comfortable. I hit my shin on the front of the car, I'm pretty sure. We decided to buy a few things afterwards. I got a Warner Bros. Hat, my sister got a Bugs Bunny plushie, and I saw this nice Easter egg with a name tag. But during this time, we purchased one thing that would be the best part of a whole trip. The backwards row for DC Rivals Hypercoaster. Now this made me extremely nervous. Like my heart rate hit 150 beats per minute before I even got on the ride. And the actual ride itself was, let's just say, insane.
Okay, so the backwards row of DC Rivals, that was the most insane experience of my life. It was like, I don't know, ejector airtime was so strong. I was already extremely nervous, like heart rate got to like 150 beats per minute before I even got on the ride. Then that drop backwards is just, oh my, it's like pretty much nothing on earth.
But by the end of the ride, I was just absolutely loving it, and got back in line to ride again for a 4th and final time. I took row 3 and fully enjoyed every part of the ride, although I did notice a small rattle in the helix. But that does not mean what I just said is invalid. At this point we only had an hour left in the day, so we decided to give Batwing Space Shot a go. We got up to the front of the line, and it broke down. Had to call in maintenance apparently. I know it happens, but we had 2 choices. Wait there for it to reopen, or go and ride right next door, Justice League 3D. We took the second option, and were so relieved by the air conditioning in the building. Unfortunately, I lost my sister who was right next to me, and our guns also stopped working before we could hit the final targets. Since that ride took up half an hour, we had to choose which of the 2 major roller coasters to ride again, Superman or Green Lantern. And we actually chose Green Lantern. We got the front row, but it was pretty much the same ride as the first time, and the only rattle I found on the ride was a small bit in the first turn before the lift. With about 10 minutes left, we decided to go back to Batwing Space Shot. We requested the shady side and got the very last ride of the night, and it was just really fun being boosted up that tower. So after that we left the park, DC Rail was still cycling around us, and hoping that I won't have to wait another 8 years before I ride my next roller coaster.